All right, good morning. Welcome to our Encouraging Truth series, where we want to give you something encouraging on every Monday morning that you can maybe hold on to during the week. We're glad you're joining us. If you're new, if you don't know anything about our ministry, you can go online to womensbiblestudy.com. There you can get everything you need to know about us. We have lots and lots of Bible studies, series that you can watch anytime, anywhere. That's kind of our plan. Now, we want to give you something to hang on to that encourages you for the week, because life is really tough. And I get that. There's all through life we have like days that are bad, and sometimes they turn into weeks, and then sometimes months, and then sometimes years, and then they're just seasons where it just feels like we're walking through a tunnel in the dark, and we can't see anything beyond the darkness. And so our encouraging truth number 9 today is this. I want you to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I was thinking about life the other day when we were driving up by where Rob works. And he works right by a mall. And at the mall, there was this, the big store Dillard's. But it's really interesting because of the coronavirus, like everything was empty. The parking lot, there was no one shopping at Dillard's. And I was thinking about, they probably had millions and millions of dollars worth of inventory inside. And yet there was no shoppers, there's no employees, there's no income coming in. And I was thinking about the expense of what it probably costs to rent that big space at Arrowhead Mall. And yet, how are they going to pay for it? Because clearly no one's shopping right now. And so I was thinking how this whole coronavirus or financial problems or any kind of problems, they affect everyone, whether you have a lot of money or whether you have no money. And for those people that own Dillard's, the Dillard's family, or maybe they're shareholders, like this is a really, really tough time for them. See, what you and I need to know is that bad things happen to everyone. Wealthy people and even people that, like I said, don't have a lot of money. We see that with most of you, that if you come to Bible study, you know Juan. Juan sets up Bible study for us. He comes in, he sets the stage up, he sets the lights up, he makes sure all the girls have water. So that's just kind of Juan's job. But during this time, we called him and said, Juan, how are you doing? And he said, I'm just doing as much as I can to help people, because he helps people that have no money. And he said there's so many like single moms that have no diapers and no baby wipes, and they can't get out to get water because they have no mode of transportation. So he's out helping that segment. And the point is that it doesn't matter if you're wealthy or if you have no money. There's times in your life where you're going to go through a dark tunnel, where you just don't know how it's going to play out, and you just can't see the end and what that's going to look like. Because what we learn is that tragedy and heartache and sickness, all of these things, they happen to all of us. Now, that doesn't seem very encouraging. But here's the encouraging part, is that we all are going to go through tunnels in our life. Plan on it. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I want you to really, really go through the week knowing that if you're in a dark place right now, just hang in there, because it's going to get light soon. A little girl went on vacation with her parents to see the mountains for the first time. While they were driving in the mountains, their car went through their very first tunnel that this little girl had ever been to. She was terrified, and she was frightened by this sudden darkness to where she couldn't see anything in front of her. Her mother leaned over and said, look, I want you to look back at the entrance. See that light way back there? Well, that same light is on the other end of the tunnel. Later that day, when her mom asked her, like, what had impressed you most about today? The first day at the mountains. The little girl answered and said this, I learned not to be afraid of the darkness in the tunnels, because there is light at both ends. See, here's what we learn about tunnels. A tunnel is a place you have to go through for a short period of time until you get to the end. But my fear is this. My fear is that people fall apart in the darkness. People become fearful and anxious and depressed because tunnels are dark. And in the dark, we can't imagine that there really is going to be light someday. So while we go through tunnels, the problem is that we spend so much time questioning why we're there. Why is this happening? Why is God allowing this to happen? But I'm hoping that today that maybe we can change our perspective about the dark tunnel times that we go through. And the question that I want us to start asking instead of why, I would love for us to be able to start asking, how can this tunnel help me get to know God better? Because that's our goal, is to learn something new about God through the tunnels, to learn He's trustworthy, to learn He's faithful, to learn we can rely on Him for what we need. I was thinking about this with grade school. And now, like I said, I can't remember yesterday. So the actual thought that I remembered something in grade school is kind of shocking. But I realized something the other day. For me, I love to read. I love to read. But I think I love to learn to read. I learned to love to read all because of something in grade school. Now, some of you, if you're my age, you'll remember this. Here's a picture of it. The SRA reading programs. Now look at all the colors on there. So it's like, this is how it worked back then. You saw the teal. So you'd pick out a short story, and once you read through it, you'd put that back and get the next one, and your goal was to get to the purple color. And then once you read those, then to the orange color. Now, of course, each book was difficult because you were learning something new about reading. They added new words. So it was hard. It wasn't easy. But there was something about seeing all those colors that you just were motivated to get to the next level. And I started thinking about that with tunnels. And I thought, what if instead of looking at the SRA reading program oh, that looks too daunting to get to the end, I'm just going to give up now. Instead going, wait a minute, imagine what I can learn to get to that last color. But what if we did that with the tunnels in our life? Imagine what I can learn while I'm going through this tunnel, and then when I get out on the other side, I will know God better. So I wrote this. I want us to do this. I don't want us to be sitting around frustrated with God because we don't know why He's allowing bad things in our life, this dark tunnel time. But I would rather us to start thinking, when I make it through this dark tunnel, and even though it might be very challenging, I'm going to know so much more about God. See, some of us are going through tunnels of sickness or divorce or tragedy or death. But what if you change your thinking and say, you know what? I'm going to focus my energy on getting to know God better. I'm going to focus my time on reading the Bible more so I can understand God more and understand what His plan is for my life. I want to spend this time praying more, seeking God's will for my life more. And see, I think when we come to the end of the tunnel, when we have that kind of a mindset, I will come out with a stronger faith and a stronger love for God. See, I think when we change our perspective, we can stand on this. There really is a light at the end of the tunnel. But we need to focus on where we're going, not so much where we are at the moment. And see, that's what the SRA reading program did for me. I kept my focus on where I was going, those last colors at the very, very end, because I knew there was something good beyond where I was. But it would just take time, and it might be difficult to get there. When I was looking for studying for this lesson on tunnels, I came across an article. The article was by Lori Wilkerson Stewart, and she wrote a book called Promises for Prodigals. And she wrote this great article called Lessons in the Tunnel. So I emailed her and asked her if I could read this to you, and she was like, absolutely. So I'm going to read portions of it, and then we'll just kind of talk a little bit about it for a second. Here's what she says. I was crossing a bridge on my drive home from church. With an excruciating headache, I'd left the Sunday morning service after worship and now regretted missing the sermon, but I was well aware the Holy Spirit could speak to me while driving home. Now, for me, the first thing I noticed was, I think if I have a migraine headache or I'm sick, my first thought is not, hey God, what are you going to teach me through this? But then it reminded me that maybe I need to start doing that. Like, all right, God, I don't feel well today. what do you want to show me today? It was funny, Rob and I got in an argument the other day, and it's so weird because we don't really argue, but it was just kind of funny because we've been stuck at home for like months together, and which is perfectly fine, but I sat outside and I thought, God, what do I need to learn from this argument? Like, is it me? Change me if it is. Like, I just want to know. But see, sometimes we get so caught up with poor me, poor me, poor me, that we don't stop to say, God, what do you want to teach me through this? So that's what I was thinking. It was just a reminder that no matter what we're going through, we need to focus on God and instead of focusing on our tunnel at that moment. Here she goes. So as I came to the bridge, I began to think about the bridge being a metaphor for Jesus. His death on a cross made a way for me to come to God. As I thanked the Lord for his sacrifice, I asked the Lord a question. If bridges have a spiritual meaning, what about tunnels? Silently, I waited for an answer. Living near the Atlantic coast, you put up with two things, bridges and tunnels. I prefer bridges because you can see where you're headed. Tunnels I strongly dislike. But tunnels are necessary too. As I listened, the Holy Spirit had much to say on the subject. 1, tunnels allow huge boats to cross above. When we're in a tunnel, we have no idea what's going on above. For instance, ships too large to sail under a bridge can easily glide over a tunnel. God showed me that when we're in a place in our lives where it may seem nothing's happening, he is moving and shifting big things into place. God is leading us into something, but not all pieces of the puzzle are in the position yet. I loved it when she said that, because when we are going through something dark, really, we usually have no idea what God is doing. And we have to start remembering that there's things that are going on around us that we can't see, that God is working on. And even though we're in the tunnel and it feels really dark, he still is working. And so we need to always remember that when we feel like we're in that dark place. Isaiah 55:9 says this, as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts your thoughts. See, God knows why we're in a dark tunnel. We don't, he does. So we just need to trust him for that. 2, in a tunnel, I can only see directly in front of me. This is what makes me nervous about tunnels. I feel totally dependent on the car in front of me. I can't take my eyes off his brake lights. If he slows, I must slow. I must stay completely focused. As Christians, we can be assured God is driving the car in front of us. He knows where he's going, and all we have to do is simply follow him. In life, sometimes we can't see down the road. All we can see is today. Therefore, we must live today to the best of our ability, focus on the task at hand, and trust God to reveal more information in time. See, when we're in a tunnel, we just need to focus on God. We need to focus on where he's leading us. And honestly, just keep doing what you're normally doing. Just one foot in front of the other. And just believe that he is doing something. Even though the tunnel's dark, at least he's leading you through it. Matthew 8:23 says this, then Jesus got into the boat. And look what his disciples did. They followed him. Our job is just to follow God wherever he leads. And if we don't know, we just keep going on the path we're going until he changes our direction. 3, in a tunnel, we can't change lanes. Most of us have experienced God placing us in a position we didn't choose. Sometimes we want a new assignment. But God is saying, you know what? Just stay where you are. Stand still. Don't move to the right or to the left. Just follow me. See, some of you are in a bad place. You didn't choose that your husband died. You didn't choose that you got sick. You didn't choose the depression or that you lost your job. But God just wants to remind you today, just stay in the lane. Keep moving forward. Keep following God, no matter how slow it feels. God really is doing something. Even though you didn't choose that place, he still wants to use it. Look at 1 Samuel 12:16. Now then, stand still and see this great thing the Lord is about to do before your eyes. God has great things he wants to do at the end of this tunnel, but you got to just keep moving. Wait for him. Deuteronomy 5:32 says, so be careful to do what the Lord your God has commanded you. Don't turn aside to the right or to the left. Don't get sidetracked and frustrated and angry and bitter. Just keep moving, just going, God, I don't know where we're going, but I'm just trusting you. 4, once we're in the tunnel, there's no turning back. If we've committed to going into the tunnel, guess what? No U-turns, no stopping, not even an emergency lane. In fact, if we attempt any of those things, we will cause a dangerous accident affecting everyone else in the tunnel. We've all known believers who turned away and quit. Look around at the damage they left behind: pain, hurt, disappointment, divorce, disease, and even death. I just want to say this. Sometimes it's easier to turn around and walk out of the tunnel and just leave everything behind. A lot of people leave their faith. A lot of people leave their marriage. A lot of people leave their job. A lot of people just walk back and become addicted and go back to doing whatever they were addicted to before. Because continuing to move forward just seems too difficult. And God says, please don't. Go through the tunnel. Don't turn around and run back to what you used to have. Go through the dark tunnel, through the hard times, and you'll come out on a lighted end. Look at Psalm 44:18. Our hearts had not turned back. Our feet had not strayed from your path. That's how we want to live. 5, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I love when light appears and I can finally see I'm almost at the end. Any anxiety I feel disappears and I know I'm going to make it out okay. Isaiah 60 verse 1 says this, arise, shine, for your light has come and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to go through the darkness to get to the light. 6, every tunnel takes us to the other side. What's on the other side? Daylight, fresh air, an open sky, a panoramic view, a new place, a destination, a fresh hope, and a bright future. All good things. Jeremiah 29:11, it was like with the Israelites when they were worried about what was going to happen to them. God's like, for I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. That's what we have on the other side of the tunnel. Like there's hope and there's a future. She goes on to say, if we're in the tunnel, it's imperative we trust God and stay close to him. Pray, listen, and pray some more. It's never easy or enjoyable in the tunnel, but it's only temporary. We will make it to the other side. Please don't ever forget that. It's only temporary. So many people give up. Don't give up. Please, please don't give up. This reminded me of Noah. Imagine a world being surrounded with every person you know that's wicked and wants nothing to do with God. And God comes to Noah one day and says, hey, Noah, I'm going to flood the earth. I'm going to get rid of everyone. We're going to start over and I want you to build a boat. For 120 years, Noah hammered away with this knowledge that every person, his next door neighbor, the guy across the street, the guy at the grocery store, they were going to die when it started to rain. And when that day came and it was go time and the rain began and the animals were in the ark and Noah was on the ark, the door was closed and he knew his family was safe. But he knew exactly what was going on. As the boat began to lift up off the ground, he knew that the flood was raging. Now, floods terrify me. I spent a summer when I was in high school with Campus Crusade down doing, it was something in Estes Park, Colorado. And it was with the Big Thompson flood, I think is what it was called back at that time. And so many people died because all of a sudden this flood hit and they couldn't get out. And so anytime I see rushing water, like that's what it reminds me of, and I get this panic feeling. So I'm going to tell you, I think I told you this in Bible study, but I can't remember. So I'm going to tell you my really stupid what Rob and I did during a flood that don't ever do. So that's why I'm telling you this. When we moved to the side up by a mountain, but to get to our house, you have to go through a wash, which is no problem because it rarely ever rains in Phoenix, so it's not really an issue. But when it rains up north, the washes just rush, like torrential rushing. And when I come around the corner to get home, I realize I cannot get across the wash. And there's just this horrible feeling of that kind of rushing water. So one night I was on the other side of the wash and Rob was at home and I was trying to get home and he said, Lisa, I think I can make it across in my truck. So he said, let's leave your car on the other side of the wash. Hurry fast, let's get here because it's pouring rain. And he said, we'll just leave your car. I'll try to get across the wash, jump in, we'll get back when we get home. And I was thrilled with that because I didn't want to spend the night in a hotel that night. So he gets there, he says he was watching this one bush. He said, I knew if the water went over that bush, I probably wasn't gonna make it. At that point, it was right on the edge. So he rushes across the wash. We grab my stuff, throw everything in his car, and we get back. But of course, the water's it's so scary. It was just dumb. I know it was dumb. I shouldn't even be telling you this. We get home, and I looked at Rob and I said, I forgot my laptop. My laptop's in my car. Well, my laptop has everything on it, all Bible study, everything. And I'm like, I can't lose my laptop. So we knew we had to go back and get it, which means we had to go back over the wash and then back over it again. And by this time, that plant wasn't there anymore. So Rob knew it was pretty high. So all we could do was pray. It was just dumb. But we made it across. I grabbed my computer and then we came back and of course the water just was rushing and hit over the front. It was horrible. Anyway, thank the Lord we made it. But my whole point to that ridiculous story was that's just a tiny glimpse. Tiny, eensy little glimpse into what Noah was going through. Because I can't imagine sitting at my house and looking out and seeing the entire plain being flooded. And yet that's what Noah was dealing with. And so I was thinking about how Noah must have felt in that ark. A dark tunnel is probably minimized that. It was dark in there. It was pouring rain. The boat began tossing back and forth. He could probably hear the screams of his neighbors and his friends, Noah, let us in. Noah knew that nothing would ever be the same. See, some of you are going through things in your life where you know something bad happened, nothing will ever be the same. For Noah, that's how he probably felt. The world as he knew it was gone. His neighbors and friends gone. Suddenly he was overwhelmed by what's going to happen to my family? What's this new world going to be like with just us? He had no idea how this was all going to play out and how God would start over with his family. For us, it kind of feels like the coronavirus, as weird as that sounds. For most people, they're stuck at home. They've been stuck at home for weeks and weeks on end. They haven't been able to go anywhere or do anything, but we have things that Noah didn't have. Someone sent this to me, it made me laugh. I put it on a card. Noah and his family were stuck on a boat for over a year, which of course began with 40 days and nights of rain. There were no balconies, terraces, windows, internet, Netflix, Facebook, Instagram, phone, TV, or YouTube. They only had their family and a bunch of animals to take care of. So they prayed and trusted God that one day the sun would come out and dry up the land. One day they would get off the boat and start over. And God gave them a dove and a rainbow to remind them that He makes all things brand new. Don't give up no matter how long the storm remains. The sun will shine again. See, that's encouraging news. It's encouraging and a reminder to us that when Noah stepped off that stinky boat a year later, something brand new happened. He felt fresh air. He got a new start. And he had a promise that God was going to rebuild. Some of you have been walking through the dark. But I want to encourage you today to just keep walking one day at a time, just like Noah. And there will be light at the end of the tunnel. And one day the doors will open and the sun will shine again. And if you do this right, on the other side of the tunnel, you will know God better, trust Him more, and have peace you never knew existed. The encouraging thing I want to say today is there is light at the end of the tunnel, but please don't stop halfway through. Never, ever give up. Have a good day.